Arc Titan might slowly be becoming one of the most underrated classes in the game, which is weird to say, since for about almost like half a year, it was the most dominant PvE class for Titan for a while outside of Bonk Titan, which is still absolutely busted. But I think the class is getting overlooked, and with some changes, I think it actually is, if not as good as it was before, maybe just a little bit less. But now within the added ability of abilities being able to deal with champions, it's an absolute monster. So let's get over the build here. So obviously going to be using Striker Titan, going to be using Thunder Crash. I'm going to be using the Thruster class ability with Seismic Strike, just so I can have that ability of Blind, so I can unstoppable champions. Pulse Grenades, because these just got a massive 20% damage buff. And then also because of what they do with the aspect, which I was sleeping on myself, which I think some people don't even know what it does. For aspects here, you're going to be using Knockout. Critically wounding a target or breaking their shield infuses your melee attacks with Arc Energy. It increases your melee range and damage for a short time. Defeating targets with melee attacks starts health regen and also makes you amplified. And to the most important part of the build, Touch of Thunder here. And specifically with Pulse Grenades, creates ionic traces periodically as it damages targets and increases in damage over time. I didn't even know that this did this until, I'm gonna be honest, today, when I just started messing around with it, because I was like, oh yeah, that's right, Pulse Grenade's got a buff. This thing is huge, so you don't even need to get kills with the Pulse Grenade. The Pulse Grenades can just be damaging enemies, and it'll increase in damage over time while also just funding you ionic traces, which just gives you free ability energy. It is extremely strong, and I think overlooked by so many players, and this is definitely the build that I'm going to be taking into GMs. Fragments here, I'm going to be using Spark of Ions. Defeating a jolted target creates an ionic trace. Spark of Shock, your arc grenades jolt targets. Spark of Magnitude, your lingering arc grenades have extended duration. And then lastly, Spark of Resistance. While surrounded by combatants, you're more resistant to incoming damage. So on to the armor here. So we're going to be using Heart of Inmost Light. The armor perk is Overflow Light. Using an ability, a grenade, melee, or barricade empowers the other two abilities. Empowered means abilities have faster regen. Melees and grenades do more damage, and barricades have more hit points. If you wanted to, really, you could switch this out for Armatarium. Or if you really just wanted to focus into the super, you could use Curious of the Falling Star. But I feel like with Curious, you're going to be losing a lot of that ability regen that you kind of want with this build, because it's kind of the whole goal is to be what used to be Arc Titan grenade spam as much as it could be. It's nowhere near as strong, but I mean, it's this thing's still an absolute monster. Into the mods here. So for helmet, this is specifically for season 20. I'm going to be using Void Siphon to proc in with Volatile Flow from the Artifact perk, so picking up an overpowered grants your Void Weapons volatile rounds, and then also Bricks from Beyond. Defeating a powerful combatant with a Void Weapon has a chance to generate heavy ammo for you and your teammates. So Void Siphon, and then 2 Ashes of Assets, so I can just fund as much super energy back as possible from grenade kills, since this is all about grenade spam. For gloves here, I'm going to be using Firepower, so I can get Orbs of Power on my grenade kills. Bolstering Detonation and Focusing Strike, so my grenade and melee hits can fund class ability energy back, since the real nerf with Heart of Inmost Light is really to the class ability energy get back, which is pretty much non-existent, so this will kind of help fund back into the just constant cycle. Chest piece here, going to be using Charged Up, Concussive Dampener, and Sniper Damage Resist, because I'm going to need the double resist mods for really for GMs. Yeah, the Taking Charge you could swap out if you want another resist mod, or if you want to do reserves, that's up to you. Boots here, going to be rocking triple Void Weapon Surge, so on orb pickups I just have that constant 22% damage boost, since with this build I'm going to be using machine gun and either an SMG or a trace rifle. Both are void, so it's just that constant increase of damage with both of them, which will just allow it to just shred even in in-game content. And then for lastly, the class item here, going to be using Time Dilation and 2 stacks of Bomber, pretty much like in every single one of my builds. But trust me on this build is absolutely insane. If you put down Arc for a while, or at least Arc Titan for a while, go back to it and let me know how you feel about it and use this build, because this is absolutely nuts. So the stats that you're going to be wanting to look for on your armor is going to be 100 resilience and then 100 discipline, just so you can have as much grenade uptime as possible, and then also just that damage resist, and then also decrease the cooldown for getting your shield back, which will be your thruster back for this build. For weapons, I'm going to be using Hollow Denial, a surplus killing tally roll, and then a commemoration with Reconstruction Rampage to, like I said earlier, take advantage of Volatile Flow, and then also Bricks from Beyond, so I can just constantly have volatile rounds, as well as with Arc from the Blinding Melee, and from Jolt, I'm able to deal with all 3 champions at once. And then also I have the Raid Shotgun, which can freeze and also ignite, so this build allows you to deal with all 3 champions in the entire game, which makes it, I feel like, extremely strong. And I know Arc isn't a damage surge this season at all, but I still think this build's going to be worth using in GMs, and I will definitely be trying it out. But anyway, guys, probably gonna just end it here. I'll leave some extra gameplay here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.